Spectacular treasures that have never been found. Nothing is ever so thrilling as the stories of lost treasures and the hidden riches of the world that are on the borders of the legendary. Sunken galleons, plundered gold, and thrilling museum heists have long been the object of fascination for many people, often giving rise to popular urban legends. But we all know that there is plenty of truth hiding behind these urban myths. And once we dig deeper, plenty of questions start to pop up. Today we are bringing you the stories of the world's greatest treasures that have never been found. 1. Yamashitas Gold, the hoard from a conquering war. War and plunder go hand in hand. They are two sides of the same coin. And World War II was no exception to that rule. In the Pacific Front, the most powerful of the Asian belligerents, the Empire of Japan, conducted some organized and top-secret plunder of its conquered opponents. From all of the Asian countries they occupied, and there were more than 10 of them, the officials under the orders of Emperor Hirohito and his brother Prince Chichibu, looted vast amounts of gold bullion, treasures, gems, and various other riches. This was their attempt to secure funding for either the ongoing war or the future after it. Some of this gold managed to reach Japan, while most of it only went as far as the Philippines, due to the US blockades during the war. And so it was, that in the closing stages of World War II, several of Japan's princes, and their finest general, Tomoyuki Yamashita, oversaw a frantic attempt to hide these treasures in the hills and underground tunnels of the islands of the Philippines, with claims that there were around 175 hidden vaults created. It is also said that the engineers who led the constructions committed suicide inside them, the so-called seppuku, to preserve secrecy. While these treasures are considered lost, many sources claim that they were in fact partially recovered by the US forces at the end of the war, and that the vast amounts of money were used to fund many of the secret American operations of the Cold War. But either way, we'll probably never know what sort of treasures lie beneath the hills of the distant Philippines. 2. Mussolinis Sword of Islam. One of the more interesting stories is connected to a famous item from the overtures of the Second World War. The famous Il Duce, Benito Mussolini, was increasingly shifting his gaze to North Africa and Libya. This was a strategic location in the Mediterranean theater for many key reasons. And in order to successfully gain the love and acceptance of the local population, after the creation of Italian Libya in 1934, Mussolini chose a slightly controversial approach. He ingratiated himself with the Muslim populace. He encouraged Islam, restored mosques and religious schools, and had eventually proclaimed himself to be the protector of Islam, Protector dell'Islam, in 1937. This campaign, to fully ingratiate himself in Libya, was crowned with an elaborate ceremony in the desert. Here, greeted by the leader of the Berbers, Yusuf Karisk, Mussolini was given the official title as Protector of Islam, and an elaborate, rich sword that was called the Sword of Islam. The sword was exquisitely decorated in an arabesque style with plenty of solid gold finishing. The interesting part is that the sword was commissioned by Mussolini himself, and was manufactured by the Picciani e Barlacchi firm from Florence, Italy. Its cost was 200,000 Italian liras. 3. The Maharajas Splurgepatiala necklace. Maharaja Sir Bhupinder Singh, the ruler of the princely state of Patiala, commissioned a necklace made for himself by the renowned Cartier from France. This necklace was made in Paris in 1928 and was a mind-numbingly rich and luxurious display of wealth for the Maharaja. This piece of jewelry contained a whopping 2,930 diamonds and many precious Burmese rubies. Its crowning piece was the De Beers, at the time the seventh largest diamond on the planet, weighing 234 carats. Mr. Bhupinder died in 1938, and quite unsurprisingly, the luxury necklace disappeared soon after in 1948. Nothing was known of its whereabouts, until that De Beers diamond reappeared at a Sotheby's auction in Geneva. Some parts of the necklace were also discovered in 1998 at a second-hand jewelry shop in London. But the rest of the diamonds, including the rubies, remain one of the mysterious lost treasures. 4. The Polish royal casket. When soldiers are faced with a great treasure, in the field of battle, the temptation for looting becomes far too great. Such is the story of the Szatula Królewska, the Polish royal casket. This reliquary was created in 1800, by a prominent Polish noblewoman Izabela Czartoryska, and was made to house the 73 priceless relics of the Polish royalty through the ages. After its creation it was housed in the Royal Museum at the Temple of the Sibyl, and later on in Kraków. When the Second World War came to Poland, the royal casket was transported to the town of Sieniawa, into the Czartoryski family museum, where it was hidden. Sadly, when the German Wehrmacht soldiers entered the grounds in 1939, an ethnic German worker at the museum betrayed the location of the goods, and they were promptly looted by the soldiers and shared between them. Some of the items contained in this precious repository were the gold watch of King Stanislaw I Leszczyński, a precious gold and red jasper cross of King Sigismund I of Poland, a gold watch of Queen Marie Casimir Louise de la Grange d'Arquien, a solid silver rosary of Queen Maria Karolina Zofia Felicja Leszczyńska, and many other priceless relics of Polish history. Where they are now is a mystery. 5. Oak Island Mysteries and the Lost Treasure of Captain Kidd. Oak Island is a tiny, privately owned island that lies off the coast of Nova Scotia in Canada. It would be seemingly unremarkable, if it weren't for the countless urban legends related to it. The stories of Oak Island are all centered on a buried treasure, with the first stories of possible findings dating to 1799. In that year, a farmer claimed to have discovered a location in the ground, which he connected to the story of the famous pirate, Captain William Kidd. It was said that Kidd buried some £2 million on Oak Island. The farmer and his associates did discover curious remains as they dug. Every 10 feet, 3 meters, they would stumble upon oak platforms. After reaching the depth of 30 feet, 9 meters, the men apparently abandoned the dig. The exact location of this pit is unknown today. In the following decades, the partial ownership of the island went from hand to hand, and many people and companies attempted to excavate the treasure. Countless pits were dug, bores used, schemes devised, and theories proposed. Alas, no treasure was apparently discovered. Many claims were put forward. The treasure was deposited by the Templars, the French or the British, by the Vikings, the Copts, or Masons. One interesting fact is that in the early 1900s, it was a young Franklin Delano Roosevelt who was involved in digs at Oak Island, before he became the 32nd President of the United States. A coincidence? Mysteries remain aplenty on Oak Island.